Welcome to the Queen's Lair, a lifestyle podcast. Get inspired by our latest tips and information about small business, entrepreneurship, natural hair, travel, food, and even relationships. Stay tuned for another great episode. I am your host, Renee Patrice. Sometimes it's not everybody else. Sometimes it's you. Welcome back, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning into my podcast once again. I am going to talk about something that I think a lot of us tend to overlook, and that is the gift of being able to look at yourself and evaluate yourself. Now, as you heard my intro, that it says sometimes it's not everybody else, sometimes it's you. And that is very, very true. Do you ever deal sometimes with folks that always have drama, that always have this never-ending string of drama that just seems to follow them wherever they go? It's like throwing a basketball into a room full of crystal and just letting it bounce all over the place and break everything. Some people like to do that in life and then run away. Have you ever seen, I know I've seen and witnessed this myself, you will see a person who cuts someone off on the road. They actually caused the accident, but they're so far ahead up the road, they didn't even realize that they just caused all this mayhem several hundred feet behind them, you know? And we often cause a lot of drama. We often cause a lot of just foolishness within our own lives, but we don't embrace the gift of being able to evaluate and look at ourselves and admit and take accountability for the drama that we have caused. And I often hear people say whatever. This person was this, and this person was that, and that person was this, and that person did that, and I had to cut them off because they weren't this and they weren't that. You hear this all the time. You may hear it from friends, you may hear it from family members, colleagues, whatever. But anytime you hear that from someone, and it's happening all the time, that person has to now look at themselves and say, okay, why is this always happening around me? And I'm not saying that the person is necessarily at fault, but what it is that something about the energy that you have going on is attracting some sort of drama. It's attracting maybe the needy sort of people. It's attracting gossip. It's attracting, things that don't sit in a positive space. So sometimes we have to remove ourselves from negative circles. We have to remove ourselves from the gossip. We have to remove ourselves from things that no longer serve us. And I know that that is such a tough thing to do, because sometimes removing yourself from negative spaces may mean that you're not going to be around family members. Removing yourself from negative spaces sometimes means that you're not going to be around certain friendship groups anymore. Removing yourself from negative spaces, sometimes it means you even have to take a break and walk away from your significant other. And I don't mean permanently, but sometimes you just need that me time, Guys have their man caves. Women now, the she shed thing has become a phenomenon. Sometimes it's just going for a drive with just you. No music, no nothing, no radio, no outside, whatever. Just you driving in a nice area, country road, whatever it is. I will tell you, speaking of a drive, a peaceful drive, when I was moving from the DMV to the Georgia area, I drove with no music. Now, y'all already know, music is absolutely my first love of my life. Music is everything to me. And I challenged myself because it was a lot of things that was weighing on me at that time, emotionally, mentally, even physically. And it was a new start for me, moving from the DMV area to the Atlanta metro area in Georgia. And I challenged myself, and I drove all the way from Maryland to Georgia, and I never turned on the radio one time. I never turned on my iPod, Spotify, all the different music programs and things that we all have, that I have. I didn't turn on anything. I literally drove in complete silence the whole time, other than my voice, and I was driving by myself, other than my voice or me singing. That was the only thing that I allowed myself to partake in. Now, if y'all know, I put together a mean playlist when it's time to drive. When it's time to go long distance anywhere, even the half an hour, I put down a playlist now, because I love listening to music, singing, all of that. Music is a major piece of my life. It was big for my mom, my dad. They always sang in choirs. My dad grew up singing from grade school up until well into his adult years. And that's always been a major thing for my family. My family is pretty musically inclined, especially when it comes to singing. So music is something that I grew up in, just hearing music all the time, all different types of artists, especially Christian artists, gospel. That was the thing that played in the house most of the time. And then, of course, any other clean music in latter years. But music is huge for me. So for me to challenge myself to do that, it was literally like going cold turkey. No outside music, no outside noise or anything. And when I sit in my car, it's pretty soundproof. You know, that's why I love singing in the car, actually, because it's like being in a sound booth. You know, it's like a recording booth. It's amazing. And I challenged myself. The drive was about 10 hours, if I remember. And it was the most amazing thing to shut out the world. It felt like I wasn't even on the road with other people. I literally just shut out the world and just focused in on my thoughts and what it is I needed to do for my life, for myself, to make change, to start over in a new city. You know, it was just an amazing trip. The one thing that I did do is every time I crossed into a different state, I tried to slow down enough to take a picture of the sign from that particular state. So going through Maryland, and then after Maryland was a piece of DC, the outskirts of DC, then going into Virginia, and then North Carolina, South Carolina, and then Georgia. And it was an amazing trip. I had never driven that long of a distance, and, you know, time and mileage by myself. But once I did it, I knew that I was like, wow, I could do this again, no problem. And I actually did it again Several months after I moved to Georgia, I did it again to do one of my best friends from high school got married up in Ohio, and that was an even longer trip. I think that was about 12 hours. So I challenged myself to look into my thoughts, my processes, to see what it is that I need to do to change. What is it that I need to do to take accountability for my life at that point and where it was? So not just placing the blame on other people, or this person did this to me and that person did that to me, but to really be present with my thoughts. And it was amazing. It was an eye-opener for me. I was talking things through. People probably thought I was crazy when they would look over in the car and I'm talking and nobody's sitting next to me. Like I was just talking things through about what I was going to do when I got to Georgia, what I was going to do. I was talking through plans of, for my business. It was really an eye-opening thing. So when we constantly complain about what other people did, or what other people are doing, or other people hurt us, and other people didn't do right by us, or whatever, all the other things that we complain about, sometimes it's not the other person. Sometimes it's us. And I'm not saying what the person did is not wrong. However they wronged you or rubbed you the wrong way or did you dirty or whatever. I'm not saying they're not wrong. Okay? I'm not saying they don't need to take accountability. But sometimes we invite drama unknowingly. Sometimes we attach ourselves to drama unknowingly. There's this phrase that one of the psychologists that I follow on Instagram said. If I remember the phrase, I'll mention it. But sometimes we invite the drama to our lives, and we need to take accountability and look within to see why that may be. Oh, enmeshment. Okay, let me look it up here. Enmeshment. Okay. Enmeshment, ENMESHMENT. Enmeshment is a concept in psychology and psychotherapy introduced by Salvador Minuchin, I think that's how you say the name, to describe families where personal boundaries are diffused, subsystems, undifferentiated, and over-concern for others lead to loss of autonomous development. Wow. This often happens on an emotional level in which two people feel for each other's emotions, or when one person becomes emotionally escalated and the other family member does as well. So this is even talking about family, but this can also be in relationships. It could be business relationships. It could be significant other relationships. Enmeshment. You're so engrossed in what is happening with those people, the gossip of it all. You're so engrossed that you lose sight of yourself. You know what I mean? You know how they'll say on social media, drink water and mind your business? Sometimes that's just what you have to do. You can't be involved in everybody's situation. And every time somebody comes to vent to you, and I'm guilty of this as well, you can't always absorb everything that they have going on. Because sometimes people don't always know the boundaries for that. And I am guilty on both sides of unfurling everything that's going on with me. And I'm also guilty on the other side of taking everything in from other people. And I have to get better with that. I'm working on it. But yeah, enmeshment. So when we are looking at specifically dramatic situations that are going on around us, just people that just keep on doing the wrong things, at some point we have to look at ourselves and say, okay, what am I doing that may be attracting this? It doesn't let the other person off the leash. That is not what I'm saying. But sometimes we have to look at ourselves like, what am I doing that I'm attracting this? Why is it every time I get involved with said situation, it causes drama? If drama keeps coming to your door, eventually people are going to attach drama to you. I used to, and I think I've said this on a podcast before, I used to get so mad at my dad because he would be like, sometimes you just have to love people from a distance. You can't always have people in your business 24/7. And I used to think it was so mean when he would do that. But let me tell you something. That brother was on to something. He knew what he was talking about. He knew. Revelations and things that he used to say are still coming to fruition, and we buried that man 3 years ago. And his sayings, his quips and things that he would always mention, they are still running through our minds every single day, like the man is still here in the physical. It's crazy. My sister and I laugh about it all the time. We're like, yo, daddy is still here. Don't let the situation fool you. He knew what he was talking about. And sometimes you do have to love people from a distance. And sometimes you have to really separate yourself from the foolishness. And sometimes it's going to be family. Maybe you're in a relationship where your significant other is just, you're not serving them and they are no longer serving you. You sometimes have to make hard decisions, and it's not easy, and it could be absolutely hurtful. Trust me, I understand. I've been there. But when people are going in different directions, and this is not only just relationships, but this has to do with business as well. When you start flowing into different directions and people just keep butting heads all the time, you have to start making decisions. If you're not going to address it and get the proper help that you need to repair whatever is happening, then you start having to make tough decisions. So again, sometimes it's not everybody else. Sometimes it's you. But if it is you, you have to do the work to look at yourself to say, okay, what can I do for self-improvement? What can I do to start bringing good vibes around me? Because your vibe attracts your tribe. I think I've said this many times. Right? So I just wanted to share that. It was just on my spirit to share because I definitely have been in situations, personal and professional, where it's very tough to navigate through particular situations. But I really, in the last, I'd probably say maybe 10, 12 years or so, have really taken stock of people around me and business relationships, personal relationships, friendships, and really taking stock of, okay, what do I really want out of my life? What do I really want my life to look like? And how do I build that? And sometimes it means stacking in the dark by yourself, and people will not understand it because you're not at every event or function or whatever the case may be. You do miss a lot of things. It does happen. But once I started really evaluating my immediate circle of people, both personal and professional, everything just started to click, Everything started to make sense of what I needed to do. So don't get upset if people feel like you've changed. Don't get upset if people feel like, oh, they think they're better than when that's not even the case. Do what's going to work for you, something that's going to lift you up. As long as God approves of it, no man can tell you anything. I don't even care if it's your significant other. Everything in my life personally, and you guys are going to choose to what you want to do, is God, family, and business. In that order, every time. Hasn't failed me yet. So I just wanted to kind of give that bit of a word. Hopefully it resonates with somebody out there. We can keep the conversation going. Send me your questions. I'm going to do another set of questions again. So please, at Onyx Queen Media on all socials. I'll talk to you soon, you guys. Bye.